Okay, so let's go ahead and move over to our main topic for today. And we won't spend a ton of time on this, but this is just something that's kind of been at the edge of my mind as far as what's come out. So the big question is, are the cost of re-releases from Nintendo's library worth kind of what we're seeing? And this is specific to the Nintendo Switch as to what's going on right now. Can't really talk too much about the Nintendo 3DS because we don't really cover a lot of handhelds here, but they do see releases too. Slightly different there because they remaster games that were old games and they come out to 3DS, where these are somewhat of a remaster, but they're also in almost the same generation. So one of the main questions I have to ask myself is, does the cost of the Switch cartridge really legitimize the increase in cost? Because we've heard Nintendo mention this. We've heard people that are big Nintendo fans talk about this, that the cost to make the cartridge costs more than a Blu-ray or a DVD. And is that legitimate to us? So for me personally, I can see maybe a $2 to $3 increase just on the media if you're legitimizing it for that reason. But for the cost jump that we're seeing in some of the games that we're about to talk about, I personally don't see it. Ains, anything with you on either one of those topics?
No, I think that last point is kind of peculiar because, even if you were to say that the cost of a Switch cartridge is $1 or $2 and a production run more than a disc or something like that, that there really doesn't account for the digital downloads, right? So the digital price is the same if you buy it directly from Nintendo. And just anecdotally, I think a lot of people are buying digitally on the Switch because it's looked at as more of a portable system and people aren't switching out a lot of cartridges. But I don't know if that really holds merit there. That's a conversation that I feel like we had 20 years ago and we shouldn't really be having again. So you have to imagine that Nintendo, when they designed the Switch and they went with that proprietary cartridge design, they knew that was going to be a factor. So I think that's kind of silly to use that as a reasoning.
Right, and an interesting point too is there's been a lot of outlets that have kind of done testing on the best way to get the fastest load times, and cartridge was supposed to be a faster load time than a disc, which it is. However, the fastest load times in games like Zelda, Splatoon, and other games like that is if you install it digitally with the internal memory, that you're only stuck to 32 gigs, which is only about 27, 28 gigs once you take off the OS. So yeah, to your point, you're not really paying that additional amount if you're getting it digitally anyways. And I do see that the overall Nintendo community, with the exception of collectors, is probably going to be going digital in general anyways, because you're going to have it on the go. So that's kind of an interesting take on that. So that's a concern that I've had, and something that people argue about. Well, the cartridge is going to raise the cost so much. Something else that is kind of questionable from a gaming perspective is, are games that you've played the heck out of on the Wii U or the Wii or whatever that it comes out, are you going to replay that game altogether from a home console perspective? I personally have run into this with Mario Kart. I take my Switch on me on the go, and I play other games, but I have not found myself going through and replaying games to the max that I played them on the Wii U. Now, this definitely varies for people that maybe never had a Wii U. Maybe this is the first time you're getting to experience a game. Will this affect you? So that's something that I've battled with personally, and I've now questioned buying re-releases in general because I haven't got the most out of them. Ains, what are your thoughts on that? As far as, do you see yourself replaying a game to the max that you already did just a year ago?
No, I don't think so. I think the fascination with being able to take your home game on the go, it's not wearing off, but it may be a little bit for me. And that, like for instance, Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart 8, man, it's going to take a long time to get that right. Was a good example, right? Because we both played the heck out of it all Wii U, and we both bought it again on the Switch, ideally to play together online. And because of Nintendo's online or lack of online system, we're unable to do that. So I actually sold my copy because I didn't find myself just wanting to replay everything I had already done on the Wii U. And, whether it's first party or third party, I think that same conversation arises. So there's a lot of, publicity over Skyrim coming to the Switch and Doom coming to the Switch. And I think that's great to see. I love that's happening. But as someone who has put a few hundred hours into Skyrim and did so 5+ years ago, I don't really have a huge, want to buy that again just to play on the go. Especially, as the Switch matures and you get more of the exclusives and the first party titles like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, things like that that are unique to the Switch. Why would I spend time replaying Skyrim on the Switch when I can be playing something new? And when you look at the other factors, so Doom, for instance, is going to be running at 4K on the Xbox One X and at a high 4K 60, and it's going to be gorgeous and mind blowing. I don't know why I'd want to spend time playing on the Switch when I've already played the game. Plus, it's a lower quality just because it's on the go. I think you could probably better off playing other things, at least for me personally.
Yeah, and that comes from us both choosing Doom as our game of the year, last year. So it's interesting. I've seen the argument, but you can take Doom on the go. Well, yeah, it's going to be on the go, and that's cool and everything. I think that the biggest story from it coming to the Switch is not that it's Doom coming; it's the fact that we're getting more adult games on the Switch, which has not happened in past Nintendo consoles for a while. So I don't know. That's something that I struggle with all the time. I think it's cool to get Doom. Will I be buying Doom at launch at full price? No, I'm not going to pay $60 for that game. That's crazy to me. But, we'll see as far as how it's going to do. I think it'll sell surprisingly well because most of the Nintendo folk that only buy Nintendo have never played Doom or even seen Doom. They don't even know what Doom in 4K or 60 frames per second is even like. And I've already seen this a number of times saying, I don't care about 30 frames per second versus 60 frames per second. I just want to play it on my Switch. It's like, well, if you actually play shooters, which most Nintendo people that are specific to Nintendo-only consoles have not really seen a ton of shooters from the Wii U and the Wii in the past 5 to 10 years. So kind of mixed opinion there on that one. I'm not really sure what to think about Doom. We'll talk more about Doom in a second. But the last thing, and you've kind of touched on it already, is the cost to get a game on the go really worth the full price MSRP that is the standard going rate for new games of $60 for games that have already been out? Me personally, no. To a certain extent, I don't think it is because I think the majority of people that are home console gamers are not going to do that again. However, if you're an on-the-go gamer, it makes sense for you. So I think it's kind of down the line as to what is important to you as a gamer versus what's important to the other gamer. I know some people that have put polls on Twitter and Facebook as, where have you played your Switch more? Do you play it more on the go or at home? Surprisingly, that percentage is not as skewed one way versus the other. They're almost, I think, down the middle, if not 60-40, as to whether they're playing at home or on their console docked. What are your final thoughts on that point, Ains?
Yeah, I know for me personally, I play it more at home. I have taken it with me, and I love the fact that I can do that. But, in reality, I do play it more at home than I do, say, on the road somewhere. Paying for the portability factor is obviously a personal decision. But I think at least at a high level, it seems kind of strange to say I'm going to repay full MSRP, full $60 just to be able to play the same game again, but on the go. I think unless you're really someone who travels an awful lot or is on a plane all the time or, takes the subway to work or something like that, I think that argument is tough to make, or that case is tough to make. We've talked about this too. I don't know why Bethesda is charging a full $60 for Skyrim or Doom on the Switch, especially when you get those games, for a lot less on other platforms. And I can't imagine the cost of development, warrants that $60 price tag. I think honestly what it is, as you kind of touched on with the hardcore Nintendo people, is they're not used to seeing these games. A lot of these players don't play other consoles, and so they haven't played these games yet. And so you combine those two things together, and I honestly think that they're going to sell well, regardless of the fact that they're going to be $60. So, yep. But for me personally, no, I'm not anxious to do that again. I don't think I'll be picking up any of these. I love Doom to death. I think it would be cool to play on the go, but like I said, when I can play so many other games, especially big games that'll take a lot of my time, like Mario or Zelda, that's not really for me. There was one other point I was going to make, and I lost it. It fell out of my head here. So if you want to kind of
Yeah.
finish up your comments, and I'll see if it comes back to me. I don't know.
Yeah, so I didn't have any new comments as far as Open Comics. I did want to briefly talk about the math of where these games are as far as cost-wise. And we can start with first party. So let's talk about the two first-party games that are re-releases from the Wii U, whether you knew that or not. Maybe you didn't buy the Wii U, didn't care about the Wii U, you were doing something else. Maybe you went strictly to handheld. Let's talk about them. So the first one, Mario Kart 8, which was originally a game that came out on the Wii U, and here's your Wii U version. When this came out, it was $59.99. And one of the funny things about Nintendo is they don't lower the price of their software very much. The lowest this game got at retail when the Wii U was kind of seeing kind of the end of the light, and Switch had not been announced yet. This was on sale fairly often for $39.99. You could find it for that. And it currently goes for $29.99 or $39.99 at GameStop in the Wii U format. So you can get this today for that. When this game came out on the Switch, it was a full $59.99. Now, the additional features that you did get is you did get some better textures, and you did get the additional characters that were not in the Mario Kart 8 game, even outside of DLC. So there was 2 Splatoon characters that were added, and there was, I believe, an additional 4 characters that were added to the Mario Kart 8 game via DLC. So you had to pay for it, and there was some new tracks, and there was a new 200 class, which came to everybody. That all came bundled in the Switch version. Now, one of the frustrating things is a lot of that stuff was already unlocked for you when you got it on the Switch. So there's no reason to unlock it. The only thing you got on the Switch to unlock was new tires, new, I believe, your glider that you could have, and the actual cart was different, and you had to unlock those things. But the characters were already unlocked for you, so there was no special things there. So that kind of brings up what we're just talking about, the math. You're paying $60 for a game that has been out since, gosh, when did this game come out? Can't even find the date here on it, but let's just say 2013 for argument's sake, that game came out. And you can currently buy the Wii U version for $40. You're paying an additional $20 for the Switch version. Once again, we're talking first party, so they kind of stick to their games and their prices very similar. The last one I'll talk about, and then I'll let Ainge jump in here.
So, sorry, Bert, I was just going to
Yeah.
say that Mario Kart 8's original release date was in May of 2014, so it's over 3 years old now.
Okay, over 3 years old. Yeah, so kind of questionable there, to say the least, on that. But like I said, Nintendo does not lower the prices on their first-party games that much. Pokken Tournament, which is coming out or has come out, depending on when you're listening to this, is also a full $59.99. You can currently get that game for $49.99 used. Now, here's the tricky thing about that. That game originally ended up dropping to $29.99 at one point when the game was out. I don't know when the price exactly went out, so I can't, give you factual data on this one. But I believe when the Switch started getting close to release, Pokken was already in development. They ended up raising the price back up to $49.99 new from Amazon. You can still get it from Amazon for $49.99 directly from Nintendo. So kind of a shady practice there. It's currently $49.99 for the Wii U, $59.99 for the Switch. Here's the tricky thing. You can get it used for $39.99 from GameStop. Again, same pricing. Nintendo does this with their first-party stuff. The only game that has the excuse of staying close to the price is Zelda, because it released at the same time for the Wii U or the Switch. So that's where we are with first-party re-releases. We'll talk about what we have as predictions for future re-releases that were on Wii U and are now coming to the Switch that are not announced yet. But Ains, anything you had to say on first-party stuff before I talk about third-party?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that looking at Pokken Tournament 2, that came out in July of 2015 originally, so that's over 2 years old now as well. So we've touched on this before. You kind of nailed it in the sense that just first-party Nintendo is a unique beast, and for whatever reason, they can do this and get away with it. No other developer, no other publisher does this, even if it's first party. Sony, Microsoft, their games come down like every other third party. It's just Nintendo, and I don't know why that is. I have to imagine that if Mario Kart 8 and Pokken Tournament, if these games, as the years went on, if they went down to like $19.99 budget titles, more people would own them. I just don't see how many people are going out there and buying a Wii U game 3 years after release for $50. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and as we've said, people are going to buy them. So I think Nintendo does that because they can. It's one of those kind of tactics because they can. So let's talk briefly about third party. So really quick, Doom, which is the big one that's gotten the most press lately because that is coming this year to the Switch, will be priced at $59.99. So how much do you think you can get Doom for right now on third party, as far as Xbox One and PlayStation 4? Well, Amazon, to kind of give you a heads up, had it as low as $15 this past year on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. You could at many times find this game used for $15. Currently, Doom goes for about $29 to $25 as MSRP, and that is with all DLC that you can get with it as well, which they have made free in a lot of areas. So kind of a weird option there. The Switch version is going to be coming with all DLC, just to give you a heads up. They did mention that. It's only going to be running at 30 frames per second, and 1080p is not guaranteed. I have a feeling that game is going to run at 720p, even docked, but I can't comment on it too much yet. It's not out yet. But so $60 versus 20 or 25. So you're paying 3 times the cost to play it on the Switch for a lower version. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. I would probably be okay with it being around $39.99, even though that would be too much for me still. I would probably think the best price for that game would be $29.99. However, I do understand it's coming to the Switch, so they have to get that. Another one that I'll talk about, and once again I'll pass it off to Ains, is Skyrim. So I have this on Xbox 360. I am not a huge Skyrim person, even though I joke I've bought this game 4 times now. And every time I try it, I just can't get into it as much as other people do. Power to them if they love it. But Skyrim is the other massive game coming out this fall for the Switch. Also $59.99. You can get, actually, I'm going to ask you, Wayne, since you probably have the computer in front of you, but what is the Skyrim Complete Edition going for right now on PC, PlayStation, Xbox? Do you have any idea what that is as far as other consoles?
So are we talking about remember, because they've done a bunch of editions. So you had Skyrim, then on 360 and PS3, you had the Legendary Edition, which I had, and then on Xbox One, PS4, you had the Definitive Edition. So is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, I'm talking about kind of the latest one that had everything. So Definitive, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, what is that looking at? I'm guessing $30, $29.99?
Looking right now. You can get it for, so basically low 30s, between 25 and 35.
35, okay. So the Switch version will obviously not be the completely amazing looking PlayStation 4, Xbox One version, which was said to be PC settings pretty high. You're going to get it on handheld, full price versus they just don't match up in my opinion as far as portability goes, and that's really the only thing Nintendo Switch has to sell on. You can take it on the go. You're not getting any new features aside from a link pack on Skyrim. You're not going to get any new DLC that was not in the other DLC, so kind of a weird thing to take on that. Ains, are you going to be buying Doom or Skyrim on Switch?
Probably not. No. I think for all the reasons we said, it's just they're not worth it to me
right.
Just to play on the go. If they were bringing something new to the table, as you commented, if they came out and said, okay, Doom's got some new features and, maybe some new weapons, I don't know, what have you, just something new, then maybe I'd consider it. But it's just really not worth it, especially coming at this time. I think that I bet you, and I'll make this a bet right now, that Skyrim will break 1 million copies on Switch. And that's knowing that there's only, by the time it releases, 7 or 8 million Switches in the wild, and so a lot of those are Japanese audience. I still think it'll break 1 million copies, which will just be shocking because the game's going to be 6 years old. They're charging $60 for it, as you said, and we'll see. But I don't know. The portability factor is not worth it that much to me, personally.
Yeah, and Skyrim is like turning into the latest Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean, that's come out a long time ago and it's been re-released on everything multiple times. We'll see what happens. But with Skyrim being Skyrim. I mean, gosh, it's just nuts to me that the game is still selling as much. The last thing I want to touch on is games that are releasing on the Switch now that do legitimize $59.99, even though they're the lower, I don't want to say dumbed down version, but the lack of fully featured options is NBA 2K and FIFA. Those are coming out on the Switch. You're not getting the full textures. You're not getting on that, obviously, because of lack of horsepower on the Switch, but you're still getting a great experience, and I have zero problems paying $60 for those games. They make complete sense to me. The last game, which I talked about a second ago, which just released in the past 2 weeks, is Rayman Legends. That is not a $59.99 deal. However, I still think it's too much. Here's why. So Rayman Legends, the best version for that game for the longest time, I think widely accepted by most people, is the Wii U version because of the multiplayer feature of it and the fact that you can use the stylus in many parts of that game. The Switch version, you lose every single one of those features on the Switch, and you also are there. The game is also having frame rate issues playing on the Switch. I'm not sure if there was an issue with the porting of it coming over. I'm not sure what it was, but the Wii U version, the Xbox One, and the PlayStation 4 versions are the better versions of the game. So the current Rayman Legends purchase price is around $19 or $25, somewhere in that range. You can get it used for $12 in many outlets right now. So worth $40, I'm not sure. However, I did see Rayman Legends on the Switch for sale already for $35 to $30 on the Switch. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but the math, like I said, for me, I have issues with it. I think other people do as well that are fairly open-minded about playing other consoles aside from just the Switch. So, is anything else you want to touch on that before we give some predictions of Wii U games that are coming to the Switch in the near future?
No, I was just going to say I was looking up to see because I didn't know where Skyrim ended up in terms of sales. And the latest thing I could find here right now is that in November of last year, so almost a year ago, Todd Howard had confirmed that Skyrim had sold more than 30 million copies to date. So
holy crap.
People are still buying it this year. And then if you factor in the Switch, like we said, and don't forget there's Skyrim VR coming as well. So if you include all those, it won't surprise me to see it break 40 million here in the future. But what's really crazy, and I don't want to take us off of the Nintendo topic or Skyrim, but Skyrim has sold, say 35 million copies, which is extraordinary, and that's in 6 years. It just puts into perspective how much of a success Grand Theft Auto 5 is, because Grand Theft Auto 5 recently announced that they passed 80 million copies sold. So it's just staggering, to be honest. That the
right.
Title that these games have is amazing. But I mean, Skyrim, remember, unlike Grand Theft Auto, which has Grand Theft Auto Online, which people just continue to play daily, Skyrim's a single player role-playing game. On the PC you have the modding community, of course, which do both tremendous and really crazy things. But I mean, the fact that people just continue to play this role-playing game over and over again is crazy to me.
Crazy. Yeah, gosh, 30 million units for Skyrim. Okay, so I have 3 to 4 predictions of what is first party or big games for the Wii U that I think are actually coming to the Switch and currently probably in development. And I'm not sure if you've thought about it, but I'll go with mine first. The first one I have is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. This game is actually fantastic. If you haven't played it and you have a Wii U, I suggest picking it up. I did also want to talk about their current cost. So when this does come to the Switch and there's announcements for it, you don't see this go up. So currently you can get this brand new for $34. At many points of time, there is an eBay special going on for this one that came with the Amiibo bundled in for $25. So if you can still find that, go for it. You can find this used for $25 today. One that is an absolute gonna happen no matter what. I bet you it does within the next 12 months. Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U. I'm sure they'll call it Super Smash Brothers DX or something, which is almost a promise. Another game that has not gone down in value at all because it's still selling, believe it or not. This is new $50 still. You can get it used for $39.99 for GameStop. You can find this on eBay for about $30 to $40 today. So another good one there. Lastly, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, one of my favorite platformers as far as side scrolling. This one is fantastic. If you haven't played it, it looks amazing. It currently goes for $20. And funny enough, you can buy it used for $20. There's not really a difference, but Amazon is a good place for this one. This is also another one that's almost a automatic is coming to the Switch, in my opinion. The last one, which is kind of a third party, kind of first party, Basically, it's only came out on the Switch. However, it's not a first-party studio. Is Wonderful 101. I don't have it, but I've played it, and I kind of want it, and it's so cheap that I'm probably going to get it in the near future. It's kind of a great game. The mix of it is you're just a superhero with a whole bunch of other ones, and you form different formations to fight big enemies or whatever. That game has a huge following. A lot of people love it, even though it's not a perfect game. That one is super cheap. You can find it brand new for about 25 to 20 bucks on eBay, or even Amazon still has it new. Or you can get it for 15 bucks, and I've seen it less than that on eBay for under $10 many times. So those are my re-release predictions for what was on Wii U that is coming to the Switch. We'll see if the prices are crazy for that. Ains, did you have any before we close out our main topic?
No, I was agreeing with you. Smash Brothers is one we've commented on before, right? It's unless they create a new one prior to this re-release, but I fully see this re-releasing probably sometime in spring of next year, as you know, to kind of filter in Nintendo first party on the Switch. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze got really high reviews when it came out. I own it. I enjoy it. I love Donkey Kong. That wouldn't surprise me either, just to, you know, give that game some more sales. So I think of the two that you touched on, I think those two are probably the most likely. I think Smash Brothers is almost a given, though. I will be more surprised if we don't see that than if we do.
Yeah, the last one I had in here that I just saw had is Pikmin 3. I have not seen a Pikmin for console on the Switch even be announced. There's the Nintendo DS one or 3DS or 2DS that is already out, actually. Was not reviewed very well. A lot of people didn't like it. So I wonder if they jump back to Pikmin 3, which was an amazing game. And the only thing that would struggle this one on the Switch is that a lot of the gameplay is done on the actual gamepad of the Wii U. So maybe this one will take longer, or if they get more creative on development on it, we'll see. So anyways, those are kind of the last things I wanted to touch on this. You know, let us know if you're a person that is going to be grabbing them no matter what. Maybe you're boycotting this whole practice of re-releases and crazy prices for them just because of Nintendo. Maybe you don't care. Just let us know what you think, if you think something about it at all. So